So today we're going to talk a little bit about complements versus substitutes. That's what I want to do in this video and what they mean. And then also we're going to talk about their counterpart, complements in production versus substitutes in production, which can be confusing because there is a difference. Okay? So first we're just going to talk about complements and substitutes. So what's the first thing that comes to your mind when you heard the words? So, besides a substitute teacher, or something you tell someone to make them feel better. So this is the best way I define that. So complement, I think a complement I equate that to a package. Okay, if it's a package deal. If I'm buying one good, I'm also buying the other. So for me, a good example of this, I would say, is PB&J. I am not buying peanut butter without the jelly. I love PB&J sandwiches, okay? So you might as well just wrap it up and put the price together because I'm just going to buy both. It just saved me some time. So that's what a complement is. Okay? And then a substitute, it's a package deal. You buy them together always. They have to be together. It's like if they're wrapped together, you can't buy one individually. You buy them together. Okay, a substitute is the opposite. It is one or the other. I think a good example of this would be, for me at least, I would say white or wheat bread. I know some people might buy them together, but for me, I'm not buying both. Bread is bread. I'm going to buy white bread or I'm going to buy wheat bread. I'm not going to the store to buy both. That seems silly to me. That's just me though. And it's important to note that these are your only two options. If you're not buying white bread, that means you're buying wheat bread. If you're not buying wheat bread, that means you're buying white bread. And that's what a substitute is. You're buying this or that. There's your only options. And you have to buy it. Okay, that's important distinction. So when we talk about a complement, we'll deal with substitutes first because I think those might be a little bit easier. So let's say, in this case, the price of white bread increases. Okay, so your price of white bread is increasing. What's going to happen to the demand of wheat bread? Okay, so if you go to the store, you see white bread 10 times more expensive. You can only buy white bread or wheat bread. So what are you probably going to do? You're going to start buying wheat bread. So that means the demand of wheat bread is going to increase. Okay? And vice versa. So if the price of white bread is decreasing, the demand of wheat bread will be decreasing. Because if white bread's dropping, you're going to buy more white bread and you're going to buy less wheat bread because you buy this or that. So now let's talk about packaged goods, which is the opposite. So if the price of peanut butter is going up, what's happening to the demand of jelly? So like for me, if I go to the store and I buy peanut butter and jelly together, and I see peanut butter is more expensive, I'm probably less inclined to buy peanut butter. That means I'm not going to buy jelly. I don't want jelly in this case. So my demand is going to decrease. Now you might be asking, if you've just watched the video on the law of supply and demand, is it the demand or is it the quantity demanded? And that's a good question. We talked about the price of a good cannot cause a shift in the market, in the demand or supply curve of that good. But in this case, it's causing shifts because we're not dealing with the same good. We're dealing with two different goods. That would be true if we're talking about the price of peanut butter. The price of peanut butter increasing cannot cause a demand increase in peanut butter. That can't happen. But it can cause a demand increase in the market for jelly because they're two separate goods. Okay? And that's also true of white and wheat bread. There's complements and substitutes. And so the increase in price of white bread does not cause a demand increase in the price or demand decrease. It might cause a shift in quantity demanded, but does not cause a shift in demand for white bread. But it can cause a shift for wheat bread because that's a different market. Okay. So now we have this thing called complements in production versus substitutes in production. Okay, I'm going to scroll up a little bit. So what's important to note here is that it says in production. You only know if it's in production if it says so. So if it only says complements or substitutes, assume it's only talking about your demand. It's talking about your thinking as a consumer. If it just says complements, substitutes, default. It will clarify if it says complements in production, substitutes in production, then you know you're thinking, because it's production, you're thinking on the producer side, which is the supplier. So in this case, the best way I've learned how to explain this is think your Walmart, like we talked about before. So back to the example, we have PB&J and we have wider wheat bread. So if you are Walmart and you have this is like your shelf, we'll say, and you have condiments, and you can put your jelly right here, you can put your peanut butter right here, and maybe you could fill that with other spaces like ketchup or mustard or something else. It's just condiments. So if the price, because you as a producer you always want to sell at the highest price, make as much money as you can. So if the price of peanut butter starts to increase, what's going to happen as a supplier, as a producer, to the supply of jelly? So make sure I write this. So if the price of peanut butter is increasing, you want to sell it at the highest price. So you're probably going to start supplying more peanut butter. And so if you're supplying more peanut butter, because they're complements, you're going to supply more jelly as well. So your supply will increase. So you're going to shelve more jelly because you want to sell them at the highest price. Okay? And in production, remember, you're always dealing with supply and production. So if it says complements in production, it's a shift in the supply curve. If it says substitutes in production, it's a shift in the supply curve. Now, let's say we have a shelf. This is, I don't know, bread. And there's only one spot for bread on the shelf. So I can either put, I don't know, this is my white bread, or I can put this wheat bread. Okay, one or the other. And right now, white bread's being stocked and wheat bread's not. So what happens if the price of white bread increases? What happens to the supply of wheat bread? So the supply of wheat bread is going to decrease because the price of white bread is increasing. And as Walmart, because we're thinking in terms of the producer, because it's in production, you want to supply whatever is the highest price. You want to make as much money as you can. So the price of white bread is increasing. That means you're going to supply less of the other good, and vice versa. So if the price of white bread is decreasing, that means you're going to probably supply more of the other good, which is a substitute in production. Supply more wheat, and vice versa. So if the price of peanut butter decreases, you'll probably supply less jelly. Okay, let me know if you have any questions. Adam out.